I'm joined now by Sam Cowie, a freelance journalist based in Sao Paulo. Welcome to the broadcast. The interim speaker of the lower house basically decided to annul this because of what some might see as procedural issues. So if this is replayed, there's nothing to make one think that the outcome will be different. It just would merely prolong the crisis, right?
Well, that's very true indeed. And it seems very much at the moment that the vote will not be replayed. It seems that it will go ahead as planned on Wednesday. The vote has not been approved by the Senate, and now the only option is for acting head of the lower house, Mr. Maranhão. He will go to the Supreme Court if he can to try and proceed with this annulment, but it seems very unlikely. And with such a large majority the first time round voting in favour of Rousseff's impeachment, it's highly unlikely indeed that even if this were to be replayed, that things would be different.
Sam, I was reading today that there was this sense that the public was unhappy about how all this played out on April 17th. There was shoving, taunting by lawmakers on national television. Do you think that's what led? This is a rather unusual move. Do you think that's what led to this?
No, there was extreme discontent with the way that the process played out, whether people were for or against impeachment. Many, after seeing the spectacle that was Congress on the 17th of April, where we had people spitting at each other, pushing and shoving, paying respects to military dictatorship torturers and all sorts of stuff like this, and very few people actually giving the reason, very citing the crime that Rousseff is accused for as the reason to remove her. Despite all of this, it's very much that the public were extremely dissatisfied with this process, but this is not necessarily to do with the process which is happening today in the lower house of Congress. Now, this is a process. This is a process which has been accepted. The annulment was accepted by acting Speaker Mr. Maranhão, and it was originally made. The request for the annulment was originally made by the Attorney General, who is a strong ally of Rousseff.
Is there anything that surprises people in Brazil now? I mean, it seems like almost every day we're seeing some new intrigue or some new piece of information coming out. Of course, Eduardo Cunha last week running into trouble. So many people implicated in corruption. I mean, are people just kind of numb to all of this, or how are they responding?
Absolutely. Well, there is definitely a sense of fatigue here. People are almost wishing it could be over. But also, this is very important to lots of people, because we have to remember that if a new government is selected, then that's going to be a government that perhaps is going to prioritise some people and some policies over others. And so there is a lot of resistance. We've seen leaders of social movements saying that there will be resistance to this impeachment if it indeed goes ahead, that there may be occupations of buildings, farms. In fact, today we saw one of the main social movements in Brazil, the landless workers movement, claiming that they occupied a farm which is allegedly connected to the soon-to-be interim president, Michel Temer, who will take over if Ms. Rousseff is indeed impeached. And yeah, so while there is a strong sense of fatigue, we're also seeing a lot at stake for a lot of people in this political crisis.
Sam Cowie joining us from Brazil. Thanks so much.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, cctv-america.com.